Hello everyone and welcome back to Car Venus 14. Now today we are going to be carrying on our topic of Cryo and Dendro. Now if you guys didn't watch the last video, which I made like a few seconds ago before recording this one, basically that video I actually said that Cryo and Dendro don't actually have a reaction together because of because of the different symbolism between the two. They just don't mix. If you want to get more detail about that, then obviously watch that video. It will be in the description below. Yeah, go and check that video out if you haven't watched it. But basically today I want to take an individual look at the different characters that are actually that actually could be affected by it by quite a bit. Now, I mainly want to talk about Shen-He because well, if you didn't tell by the actual channel icon profile pic as well as the channel banner, then you will understand why we're talking about Shen-He specifically. But yeah, so I specifically want to talk about Shen-He because obviously not a lot of people out there actually use Shen-He as a DPS, and that's fine by me because it means only a select few of us can acknowledge this power within our favorite girl. So, sorry, favorite woman, I should say, because she is rightfully a woman. But anyway, back to the video. Obviously, continuing from the last video, I said, Cryo and Dendro don't mix. So, which characters will it affect, and how is it going to affect, Shen-He? Now, obviously, Ganyu is just ridiculously strong. Now, she's been ridiculously strong ever since she came out. Ganyu will probably... Ganyu is a one-man army. Well, one-woman army, I should say. Because she can effectively just do everything. She can't really take damage, because if you play really far back as her, which is how you're supposed to be playing, you'll be able to just not take damage, and you'll be able to deal damage while staying far back. So that Ganyu, I don't think, would really change too much in the Dendro region. But characters like Ayaka, who else is a Cryo DPS, really? Ayaka, I actually can't think of anyone else. I mean, sure, there's characters like Rosaria and Kaya, but you mainly use them as either supports or physical DPSs. You don't really see them as Cryo DPSs. Yeah, I guess I could talk about Cryo DPS Shen-He here as well, actually, because obviously Cryo Ayaka and Cryo Shen-He, now they don't rely on reactions, and they definitely shouldn't, because obviously there's no actual cryo reaction that buffs cryo damage, right? So they're kind of self-sufficient in that way. Of course, you can use Swirl like Viridescent Veneer in order to go against enemies like that. So, you can definitely go Viridescent Veneer or Zhongli Shield, but obviously not everyone has those resources. Now, because Cryo doesn't really have a reaction with Dendro, and yeah, it may not sound bad, because obviously Cryo aren't really losing anything or profiting in anything, the competitors, aka Hydro, Electro, and Pyro, the main DPSing kind of elements, right? Well, Hydra's a bit arguable, but, with the recent characters, you could really say Hydra's a DPS character. But yeah, DPS element. But yeah, apart from its competitors, Cryo isn't moving forward. It's staying in the exact same spot, but the other elements are kind of staying they're kind of moving forward. Pyro's getting a new well, Pyro already had a Dendro reaction, but obviously it's getting more explored in Sumeru. Then obviously Hydro's getting a reaction with it as well, and of course, I think it's more of a supportive reaction Hydro is in that case. But yeah, then of course there's also Electro, which is getting a DPS kind of reaction. So yeah, Electro is getting much stronger with the new reaction coming out. So Electro characters are going to be a lot better in Sumeru. So obviously with all the other elements getting a reaction, of course Cryo and Geo, as far as we know, officially anyway, Hoyoverse haven't actually said anything, but we can assume that obviously there's going to be a Swirl Dendro and a Crystallized Dendro reaction with Animo and Geo respectively. So yeah, but obviously we know that Cryo isn't actually going to be getting a reaction, or that maybe it could be, but they just haven't announced it yet. But in the worst case scenario, if Cryo doesn't actually get a reaction, where does that put all the Cryo characters in the game? Like, for example, Kaya, or Rosaria, or characters like that. Now, obviously, it's not really going to be a massive issue. I may have over-exaggerated it in the last video where I said it, Cryo is definitely going to go down in the meta tier list. Most likely it probably won't, because all the elements are able to be sufficient in terms of dealing damage. And of course, Cryo is no exception. Now, obviously, the element damage doesn't the element doesn't have a specific amount of damage that it does. That's obviously only exclusive to the different characters, right? So Ayaka being a cryo DPS might not even realize, might not even get hugely nerfed with these, with the lack of dendro reactions with cryo. So honestly, Ayaka might actually still be okay, because obviously she's a self-sufficient DPS, Guess I forgot to put it on replay. Anyway, head back to loop. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, guys. Now, obviously, Shenhe DPS is a bit of an odd scenario, an example. Now, obviously, if you guys didn't know, Shenhe was never intended to be a DPS. She was always intended to be a support. But people like me want to use Shenhe as a DPS because we can. We have the resources to, and frankly, Shenhe is a brilliant DPS because you could just keep your eyes on her all the time. And, I mean, look at her. Why would you want to take your eyes off of her in the first place? Objectively, the best looking character in the entire game, alright? You can say what you wish to in the comments, but my opinion is that she's the best looking character in the game. Now, back to the topic at hand, Shenhe obviously wasn't intended to be a DPS. Now, there is obviously people out there that like to use Shenhe as a DPS, and even they like to use Kaya as well as, Rosaria as a DPS. But specifically speaking, Shenhe Cryo DPS is more popular than Kaya or Rosaria Cryo DPS. Now, why is that? Because obviously Shenhe has actual, functions within her kit that boost cryo damage, right? Including her own cryo damage. So if she does normal or charge attacks infused with cryo, she'll get the benefits as well, right? So people like to run, Shenhe with Chongyun in order to make her a really strong cryo DPS. And I think that cryo DPS Shenhe is really strong, but I don't run it for, reasons I may get into in another video. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of cryo DPS Shenhe, but I'll make an entire video dedicated to why I don't like cryo DPS Shenhe another time. But yeah. Now, obviously, Cryo DPS Shenhe doesn't really rely on reactions either that much, but if you want the most out of Cryo DPS Shenhe, you'll probably want Viridescent Veneer, so an Anemo character on your team. And if you want even more damage, then maybe going even more Elemental Resistant Shred or Cryo Resistant Shred, like maybe the Anemo Traveler's Ultimate when it's at Constellation 6. Because that reduces, Anemo as well as the infused elements reaction. It decreases the reaction, it decreases the resistance of the element infused with the Traveler's Swirl during their ultimate. It's reduced by 20%, I believe. Yeah, there's of course Zhongli as well, but not everyone has access to Zhongli. Everyone has access to C6 Traveler though, so that's definitely possible. But obviously, with no Dendro reaction, Cryo, like I said, isn't moving it's not moving backwards. It's just going to be overtaken by every other element. Now, is this really a bad thing? No, it definitely isn't. So why am I making a video on this in the first place? Because I don't really see a lot of people out there talking about, how Cryo could be affected by Dendro, and obviously it's not going to be affected by that much. But all I'm saying is that, if you do use a Cryo DPS, don't really expect any massive DPS boosts in Sumeru. Like, don't, run into Sumeru and be like, oh, my Ayaka's going to be able to do, 50 million damage now with the new Dendro reaction. And then you find out that it doesn't even do anything, obviously, right? So, is Cryo going to get any compensation for this? I don't really think so. Cryo already has its own dedicated set, right? It has its own dedicated set, as in the Blizzard Strayer, and it's a really solid set. It's a really good DPS set for Cryo DPSs, like Ayaka, like Ganyu, like Cryo Shenhe, Cryo, Kaya, Cryo Rosaria, all those characters. Yeah, it's a really solid set. Now, what was really the point of this video? What if you're using a cryo character as a physical DPS, like me? What if you're using Kaya as a physical DPS, or Rosaria as a physical DPS, or Shenhe as a physical DPS, or Ayaka as a physical DPS? I don't know what kind of oats you're drinking on if you do use Ayaka as a physical DPS. You're an absolute mad lad, that's all I can say. But, yeah, or even physical DPS Ganyu if you really want to play it that way. I mean, it's the game, it's your game, you get to play however you like. But yeah, what if you're running a cryo DPS character, or a physical DPS character, right, in, you know, in Sumeru? Now, you might be thinking, well, this is kind of the exact same with, you know, what if you're using a physical pyro DPS like Xinyan, or a physical electro DPS like Razor, or a character like, you know, a hydro physical DPS like physical DPS Yalan, if that exists, or physical DPS Xingqi. Now, you see, guys, the thing is that even if you are a physical DPS, you're going to be using your elemental burst and elemental skill for as much damage output as humanly possible, right? Now, obviously, because the other three elements have a reaction with Dendro, they can use some of the benefits, or reap the rewards of some of the benefits that the Dendro reaction will give them. Not the full reward, but some of it, right? But Cryo can't utilize anything because it just doesn't have a reaction with it. Now, like I said, it's not a big deal that Cryo doesn't have a reaction with it, but I'm just saying that obviously Cryo physical DPSs might not be as strong in Sumeru compared to other DPSs. Now, obviously, for average Shenhe DPS enjoyers, for average physical Shenhe DPS enjoyers like myself, this doesn't really matter because I just love playing the game how I want to play. But obviously, there are some people that enjoy meta, there's some people that enjoy seeing big damage numbers, and if you do run a character like, you know, well, if you're a meta person in the first place, you wouldn't be running any of these characters as physical DPS in the first place. But all I'm saying is, if you wanted to see big numbers for these kind of characters, it's obviously not, Sumeru's not really going to be the place for that with the lack of the cryo reaction with it. So, yeah, basically, guys, if this video has been confusing to you, I do have to admit, there wasn't really too much to really go off on this video. I kind of just wanted to give you my own personal thoughts. So, yeah. Now, like I said, Cryo isn't going backwards at all. It definitely won't be going backwards at all in Sumeru. If anything, it's going to be staying in the same place. And that's the worst case scenario. Maybe if they do bring out a really good set that helps Cryo characters in Sumeru, then, you know, it's going to boost them even further. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, I have been Carvenus14 and still am, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.